As we've been discussing, lockdown restrictions in England will be lifted tomorrow. Good news for many business, you may think. But a poll of business leaders carried out by the Chartered Management Institute and shared exclusively with this show has found that half believe the government is lifting restrictions too quickly. 39% believe it's happening at the right pace. 43% of managers said some staff who are currently working remotely will be asked to return to the office. A quarter said they'd ask most staff, while only 13% will be asking all staff to return. Over three-quarters of managers will continue with COVID-19 safety measures in the workplace, despite the lifting of restrictions tomorrow. Only 2% will not. And there were concerns about the impact of self-isolation, something we've been discussing this morning. 53% of managers were concerned that the amount of staff self-isolating will impact business operations. 46% weren't concerned. Well, to talk more about this, we're joined by the Chief Executive of the CMI, Anne Francke. Anne Francke, half of respondents think that it's all going too fast. Why? Is there an explanation?
Well, I think the explanation is quite apparent. As we know, cases are surging. They're 50,000, and of course, Britain now has the third highest number of cases in the world. And equally, we also know that many people are being contacted. I think it's up 46% week on week and asking to self-isolate. Indeed, the Secretary of State for Health, for example, has contacted COVID, and the Prime Minister's been asked to self-isolate. So the disease is still very prevalent amongst us, and it is creating a lot of anxiety for many people, including many managers.
It's odd, though, isn't it? Because business leaders are complaining on the one hand that they're facing crisis because they can't get everybody back to work, but half of them are now saying, oh, it's all too quick. What should we really take from that?
Well, I think what we need to take from this is that this pandemic is complex. There is not a one-size-fits-all solution. And what business leaders need to do is assess their own situation carefully and put in place measures that will resonate for their workforce, their employees, and their customers. So, for example, if you are in a workplace that requires people to be on site, such as a restaurant or a hotel, then it makes absolute perfect sense that you should be able to ask people to take daily lateral flow tests. And be able to come into work if those tests are negative. If you're in a workplace such as services that can work very productively remotely, well, then actually you should embrace the more flexible working policies. And we know many managers want to continue flexible working post-pandemic.
How do you think business managers are going to feel this morning when they see that, as far as one can make out, Prime Minister and Chancellor can get on with their business, come what may, but frankly, doesn't look like they'll be able to get their people in and doing the jobs in the way they would like them to?
Yeah, and that's where it's very important that things like this pilot scheme to give people the option to take a lateral flow test and go into work, it's very important that that's extended to businesses that require on-site presence. I think that the other thing I would say is that it's really important that employers engage with their employees and set a framework so that people understand what their employers are going to be doing, and give the employees a say in that, and recognize there is not a one-size-fits-all solution to how we operate in COVID.
Just finally, one of the most striking things to me in these findings is that two of the findings that suggest that changes that were forced by COVID may become permanent. Three-quarters say they'll continue with COVID measures, and two-thirds say they expect some or all of the staff to work remotely. Do you think that's the new normal?
Well, absolutely. I think what's a good thing about the pandemic is it's forced us to reevaluate our working practices and in many cases modernize them. We know that 85% of managers would like to continue with hybrid working. Indeed, 83% are working hybrid at the moment. And that actually can be a more productive and more enjoyable and a more inclusive way of working. And so really, we mustn't allow the good changes in working practices to slip back to the way it was. We have a great opportunity to create a better workplace culture.
And Frank, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you.
That's it for today's show, which is the last one of this series.